In today's discussion, we're going to cover a few key points. By the end of the presentation, I want you to be able to list key characteristics of the Mediterranean lifestyle, identify how foods in the Mediterranean diet contribute to health, and apply strategies for incorporating Mediterranean foods and habits into your life. When we talk about the Mediterranean region, we're referring to all the countries that surround the Mediterranean Sea. So that includes Southern Europe, Northern Africa, and the Middle East. Obviously, there's a lot of diversity in people, cultures, and agriculture, but there are commonalities among them. And it's these commonalities that have been looked at and researched. The lifestyle, which includes the diet, of course, encompasses these commonalities and has been associated with fewer chronic disease. So the Mediterranean diet describes a lifestyle or a dietary pattern characteristic of those living in the region around the Mediterranean Sea. So this pattern was initially brought to the public's attention by Ancel Keys in his 7-country study, and it was published in 1970. So this landmark study was based on the observation that those residents that lived in that region of the Mediterranean Sea had the lowest rates of coronary heart disease of any region that had been studied. Although the Mediterranean diet is called a diet, it's not about cutting calories or restricting foods, but it's more a way of life or a lifestyle or dietary pattern rather than a strict diet. So people in this region follow some of the same patterns. So for example, they enjoy a wide variety of whole, nourishing foods, which are primarily plant-based. They eat small portions. They enjoy eating in company and practice leisurely, mindful eating. So they're not eating on the go like often we are. They lead active lifestyles, and this is on a daily basis. So this isn't just trying to cram in 1 hour at the gym every now and then. So the secret to a lifestyle or dietary pattern rather than a diet is that you can eat the foods that you like, but you need to be mindful and eat smaller portions of some foods to fit in more beneficial foods. And we'll talk about that later. What does that look like? So since Ancel Keys made his observation in 1970, many long-term population studies have been done, which help scientists to discover that the Mediterranean lifestyle reduces weight, blood pressure, and cholesterol. It can. Researchers also found that the more closely the Mediterranean diet is followed, the lower the incidence of cancer, cardiovascular disease, metabolic disease, Alzheimer's, cognitive decline, Parkinson's, and diabetes. And just if you aren't aware, metabolic syndrome is diagnosed when you have at least 3 of the following conditions. So if you have abdominal obesity or a larger waistline, high triglycerides, low HDL cholesterol, which is your good cholesterol, high blood pressure, and or high fasting blood sugar levels. So collectively, these risk factors raise your risk for heart disease, diabetes, and other health problems. So we've talked about the origin of the Mediterranean diet and its benefits, but now let's talk about what it includes. So the dietary characteristics of the Mediterranean lifestyle include limiting your intake of highly processed foods, incorporating more whole grains, consume a wide variety of vegetables and fruits, eat less red meat, use olive oil as your main source of fat, consume moderate amounts of dairy. If you're drinking red wine, make sure that you're drinking in moderation, and using fresh herbs and spices. First of all, people living in the Mediterranean region have a very limited intake of highly processed foods. Highly processed foods have higher amounts of sodium, sugar, artificial flavors and colors, and at the same time have less fiber, vitamins, and minerals. So it's best to eat food in its most original form, as you generally get more nutrients per calorie this way. However, we know in today's society that's not always possible. So think about the foods that you typically eat and maybe determine if there are one or two ways that you can start by decreasing the amount of processed foods that you're consuming. The second characteristic is to eat more whole grains. Whole grains are consumed more often than refined. When grains are refined or processed, the bran and germ are lost, which is where the fiber, vitamins, and minerals are stored. So you're missing out on the valuable nutrients when consuming a grain in a processed or refined form. So some examples of whole grains include brown rice, whole wheat, oats, and quinoa. Whole grains have many health benefits. Because they're minimally processed, they maintain their high nutritional content, which includes many minerals, vitamins, and phytochemicals. The fiber found in these foods help us feel full longer, helps regulate our blood sugar, and helps to remove waste through the digestive tract. Also, a high fiber diet has been shown to help reduce blood pressure, our cholesterol, BMI, and our triglycerides. People in the Mediterranean region also eat a wide variety of fruits and veggies. Eating a variety really does offer a large gamut of nutrients. Consider the color of vegetables or fruits. If you're getting a variety of colors, you're likely getting a larger variety of nutrients. Produce is most often eaten seasonally and often locally in this region. Seasonal produce is usually cheaper. The seasonal items tend to be the ones on sale. Seasonal items are also generally more nutritious as well, as opposed to something grown out of season. Additionally, vegetables make up a larger portion of each meal with this diet than in the typical American diet. Fruit is often consumed as dessert as well, but that's not to say they don't enjoy baklava or other great desserts. Fruits and vegetables are low in calories but high in nutrients, so we call them nutrient-dense foods. They can help with weight loss and even weight maintenance. They're higher in fiber and also provide beneficial bioactive compounds like antioxidants, which can help reduce the risk of certain diseases. Next, the Mediterraneans consume far less red meat than is usual with the typical American diet. Really, they only consume red meat a few times a month or less, and in place of that, they eat seafood, poultry, or eggs. Also, they consume more plant-based proteins like beans, nuts, and seeds on a daily basis. Hummus, which is pictured on the far right, is a ubiquitous food in the Mediterranean region and does provide some protein as well as healthy fats and fiber. Just like fruits and vegetables, seafood offers many health benefits as well. Seafood is low in saturated fat, but is an excellent source of monounsaturated fatty acids, which increase our good cholesterol, which is protective against coronary heart disease. Fatty fish such as salmon, tuna, and sardines are a great source of a type of fat called polyunsaturated fatty acids, in particular the omega-3 fatty acids EPA and DHA. These are known to fight inflammation and protect against various chronic diseases. The health benefits that come along with consuming more beans, nuts, and seeds include a good source of protein, fiber, healthy fats, and vitamins and minerals. Consuming legumes may reduce your risk of developing coronary heart disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and some cancer. Also, beans have been shown to have gut health benefits. Next, and perhaps one of the most researched components of the Mediterranean diet is olive oil. This is really their main source of fat. In fact, up to 25 to 40% of their total calories come from olive oil. But keep in mind that this replaces other sources of fats and high-calorie foods. Canola oil, nut oils, and avocados are other sources of heart-healthy fats that you might consider. Some of you might question the high intake of fat and weight concerns. However, studies have shown that while following a Mediterranean diet, consumption of higher Amounts of olive oil and other healthy fats did not cause weight gain. But like I mentioned, it's important to recognize that these healthy fats replace less healthy fats. So it's not like you could just add a large amount of olive oil to your current diet and assume you won't gain weight. It's about incorporating it into the Mediterranean eating pattern. Similar to seafood, olive oil is low in saturated fat and is an excellent source of monounsaturated fatty acids, which increase our good cholesterol, helping to protect against coronary heart disease. Also, olive oil has anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and anti-clotting properties. Again, all good for chronic disease prevention. The sixth component of the Mediterranean diet is moderate dairy intake, and the key word is moderate. More often than not, dairy is eaten in the form of cheese, such as feta, and Greek yogurt, not milk as a beverage. Greek yogurt is thicker and contains more protein and less carbohydrates than regular yogurt. For this reason, it may be a better option for those with diabetes. So full-fat, plain yogurt are usually the choice of Mediterraneans. But again, they're eating smaller portions and it's eaten once a day or just a few times a week. So for your reference, a serving of yogurt is 1 cup and an ounce of cheese is a serving. So about the size of 2 to 3 dice. Yogurt is a good source of protein, calcium, vitamin D, and other vitamins and minerals that support bone health and help maintain normal blood pressure. If sold with live and active cultures, yogurt contains probiotics or good bacteria, which may benefit gut health. It really is a great food that can be incorporated with many meals, both sweet and savory or as a snack. So number 7 is red wine. Red wine might be some people's favorite component of this diet. Yet again, it's consumed in moderation. So moderation means 1 serving a day for women and 2 a day for men. 1 serving equals to about 5 ounces of wine. So be sure to check your pores. You may be surprised that you're consuming more than it appears in the wine glass. Also, it's generally consumed with meals, so rarely are they just drinking to drink. As you may know, red wine has shown to have some health benefits. The compound in red wine, to which most of the health hype is attributed to, is called resveratrol, which many of you may have heard of. This compound acts as an antioxidant and is shown to protect blood vessels, reduce your LDL or your bad cholesterol, and prevent blood clots. While the news about red wine might sound great if you enjoy it, doctors are wary of encouraging anyone to start drinking because drinking too much can have harmful effects on your body. So if you drink red wine, do so in moderation and only if your health allows. So the last component of the diet that we will discuss is the use of fresh herbs and spices. Those living in the Mediterranean region include lots of fresh herbs and spices in their meals to add flavor, color, and variety. Also, this replaces the use of salt, which is consumed in excess in the United States. Dried herbs can be used, but fresh provides a more fragrant and flavorful meal. However, use of dried can be very suitable and delicious in some soups and other liquid dishes. A mortar and pestle, which is pictured in the middle photo, might be used to grind herbs and spices, which again helps to bring out those fragrant and flavorful oils. So some examples of herbs are basil, oregano, thyme, cilantro, parsley, sage, rosemary, dill, and chives. And some examples of spices include peppercorns, turmeric, cumin, chili powder, ginger, cinnamon, clove, and nutmeg. So again, herbs and spices also come with many health benefits. Many provide an abundance of phytochemicals such as antioxidants, which help to defend our cells against cellular damage. What might be even more advantageous to many of us is that using herbs and spices in meals helps reduce the use of salt. That's a huge benefit because we know a lot of people need to follow a low sodium diet, And even the average American likely consumes more sodium than is needed per day. So from a larger perspective, this pyramid helps to explain the Mediterranean lifestyle or eating pattern as a whole. So incorporating all those pieces that we just discussed. So at the base of the pyramid, you see physical activity and enjoying meals with others in a relaxed setting. And then we have fruits, vegetables, whole grains, olive oil, legumes, and herbs and spices. They're consumed with nearly every meal. These foods make up the bulk of the meal. And then we have fish and seafood, which are often consumed about 2 times a week. And then eggs, cheese, yogurt, and poultry, which are eaten on a weekly basis, maybe a couple times a week, but in more modest portions. And then we have red meats and sweets that are at the very top, and they're consumed less often, more likely just a couple times a month. And this also includes plenty of water and wine in moderation. I know this can seem very overwhelming, thinking, how am I going to, if I want to try to follow this Mediterranean diet or lifestyle a little closer, how do I do so? So I want you to think about making a few changes at a time, and just even a few changes can help control your risk factors for some of those diseases that we talked about. So for example, being mindful. So planning ahead as much as possible and be intentional when you go to the grocery store. Sit down to eat. Try to avoid eating on the go as much as possible, and enjoy meals with family and friends. So not just sitting at a computer, trying to gulp down something to eat and drink before you move on to the next task. And eating your food slowly, taking time to notice the smell, the texture, and the flavor of foods, because that can help prevent overeating. Another tip, select more whole grains. So make at least half of your grains throughout the day whole. Read your labels. Look for whole wheat, whole grain listed as the first ingredient on the packages of bread, pasta, or other grains. Ingredients are listed in order of amount in the product, so the first ingredient is really the most important. Use whole wheat flour instead of white flour when baking, and experiment with other grains like quinoa, farro, bulgur. Add them to your soups, your casseroles, your salad on the side. Make oatmeal a go-to for breakfast. And also, if you have diabetes, think about balancing your carb intake by pairing with a protein food, such as nuts, fish, cheese, nut butter. That can help alleviate a spike in your blood sugar after eating. Eating more fruits and vegetables. This is one of the biggest, in my opinion. So filling your plate with fruits and veggies with every meal, at least half of that plate. Those that are in season are often on sale. They're less expensive, obviously, and they're more nutritious than those eaten out of season. But frozen veggies can be a cheaper alternative to eating fresh at some times during the year as well. Cut up veggies ahead of time for your convenience. Try various methods of preparation so you don't get bored or sick of something. And often people don't think of including veggies at breakfast, but this is definitely an option. Top your toast with cream cheese and tomatoes or cucumbers, saute some veggies in an omelet, or even add a handful of greens to a smoothie. And adding olive oil. So using olive oil instead of butter or margarine. So you could dip your bread in it, add it to pastas or soups for flavor, combine it with vinegar to toss into your salad. I encourage you choose the extra virgin olive oil as much as possible. But remember, healthy fats still have calories and can add up. So just be mindful of your portion size. And I really like this little chart that gives you kind of a description of the different olive oils. It shows you the grades and, of course, the descriptions. So the more refined an oil is, generally the lower the quality, but the higher the smoke point. So the more refined olive oils are good for cooking at higher temperatures, like roasting or frying. However, the most nutritional benefits and flavor come from those olive oils that are not refined. So the extra virgin olive oils aren't refined and they're the highest quality of oil, and therefore will give you the most nutritional benefit. So you can use those for dips, salads, for finishing foods, but not heated at a high temp, or the flavor or the quality may be compromised. So we just talked about the extra virgin. It's the least processed. The virgin olive oil, you can saute, you can do some light cooking. Just the plain olive oil, it really lacks flavor, but you can use it when you don't necessarily need that oil flavor to enhance whatever it is you're eating. The word light just means that it's been refined, it's not lower in fat, and pomace is the lowest quality. So it's made by blending virgin and pomace, and you can use it to fry or cook. Also, we talked about protein. This is very important, as we talked about that the Mediterranean diet is more plant-based. So substitute fish and poultry for red meat. So when you do eat red meat, make sure it's lean and keep your portions small. So about the size of a deck of cards or the size of the palm of your hand. Try to really limit sausage, bacon, and other high-fat meats. And aim to eat fish 1 to 2 times a week. So fresh or water-packed tuna, salmon, trout, mackerel, and herring, they're all healthy choices because they've got those heart-healthy fats. So water-packed and frozen are good options too. You don't have to buy fresh every time because that can get expensive. So grilled fish, tastes really good, requires little cleanup. Try to avoid the fried fish unless you saute it in a small amount of olive oil. Choose from a variety of nuts for snacks. Look for natural peanut butter instead of the ones with hydrogenated oils. And you'll find that listed in the ingredients section. But also on the nutrition label, you could look for trans fats. So really choose ones that don't have trans fats. And if you have diabetes, as mentioned earlier, be sure to pair a protein food with a high carb food to help balance that spike in glucose. And of course, wine. This is something many people ask about when referring to the Mediterranean diet. So if your doctor okays it, you can have a glass of wine at dinner. Again, if you aren't drinking alcohol, I don't encourage you to start. But, any type of red wine could do. It doesn't have to be expensive, certainly. But again, you have to practice moderation. So the recommendation for women is 1 serving a day, and for men is 2 servings a day, and that serving is 5 ounces. And of course, staying active. So it's just as important to your overall health as following the Mediterranean diet pattern. So trying to be active for at least 150 minutes per week, or for 30 minutes on most days of the week. So consider fitting in these activities into your lifestyle rather than making it a chore or a hassle or something else that you have to do. You don't have to have a gym membership to be active. You certainly can, but you don't have to. So some ideas might be park at the far end of the parking lot, walk when you can, take the stairs, clean your house, get outside and garden, walk around the neighborhood, take a bike ride, rake leaves, shovel snow. There's a lot of things that you can do to incorporate physical activity into your daily routine for just 30 minutes a day. And also stay hydrated. Water is so important, especially during exercise. And a lot of times when we're dehydrated, often our bodies might feel like we're hungry, but we may just be thirsty. So drinking a large glass of water, making sure you stay hydrated is so important. And most importantly, make these changes gradually. We all know what happens when we we want to make some changes and then we try to change everything at once. And if we mess up, we feel like a failure. And so lifestyle changes, they take time to develop healthy lifestyle changes. Try not to allow yourself to become overwhelmed with again, trying to do everything at once. So once you pick something and you start, maybe you say, okay, after this, I'm going to consume 2 to 3 fruits and vegetables a day. And so you start doing that. And over time, it becomes part of your routine. And so then you pick something else and you slowly build upon that because that's what's going to help you be successful long term. And just remember, be kind to yourself and allow yourself the foods you like and enjoy them in moderation and just be mindful. I hope this information was helpful to you and I look forward to answering your questions after the presentation. Thank you so much.